I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday. Welcome to this week's edition of the Pagan Housewife. We are going to discuss the usefulness of MBTI, our attitudes towards our cooking, and resurrecting traditional and non-digital pastimes to while away those long winter evenings. But first, let's start with MBTI. If you're not familiar with that abbreviation, it stands for Myers-Briggs Traits Index. It's a personality categorization system, and the test that goes along with it provides people generalized classifications that essentially describes the cognitive process for the individual, a basic order of operations for their brain, if you will. And that helps people understand themselves and those around them, and it helps them also adapt and better strategize how they communicate, how they work together, what kind of expectations they can have from people's general behavior, that sort of thing. Now, each classification is a series of 4 letters. The first will either be an E or an I, standing for extroversion or introversion. The second will be S for sensory or N for intuitive. The third will be T for thinking or F for feeling. The fourth will be J for judging or P for perceiving. Once you know what your letters are and what they mean and how it works together, it provides insight on your own behaviors. And that can help you be more judicious about when you need to unleash those traits, when is the moment to shine, and when do you need to dial those things back and perhaps tap into instincts and impulses that aren't necessarily your first. Now, if you are also able to persuade your spouse and your children who are, of an age to actually take the test, it'll improve your understanding of why they are the way they are, and that enables you to form better strategies to promote cooperation within the household and to nurture better relationships. There's plenty of free MBTI tests online. It'll give you enough information to have an idea of, where you generally are in the broad categories of things. And as you look up various articles and informations about your particular categorization, you might say, "Oh, okay, there's a reason why I do that, and why." And it'll start the process. And as you just learn more, it'll become a lot more intuitive for you, and you'll be able to actually use this classification system to advantage within the household. Next, I would like to address attitudes of cooking, because how we approach our cooking, what we infuse into it, it does affect the results. Now, in past videos, I have very lightly touched on how we can intentionally incorporate magical intentions into our cooking, but today I'm referring to something much more basic, the spirit with which we cook. Now, magical cooking, that's much more so the realm of the witch, but being aware of what kind of energy you have while you are cooking, that is something that is within everyone's realm. Now, most of us have known grandmothers or had grandmothers who were quite adamant that the secret ingredient that made their cooking so wonderful was love. Now, as pagans, we understand that energy. We know that when someone says, "I have made it with love," that is more literal than what perhaps non-pagans are prepared to believe. But just as our cooking can be infused with love, which makes everything in it, from the taste to the presentation to the atmosphere at the dinner table, just better, we know that we can also put other things besides love into the food, and that can be quite detrimental. If we are pouring out our stress, our frustration, the rage, depression, anger into our food, we shouldn't be surprised that maybe how it plates and how it tastes is just slightly off or somewhat less than fulfilling, and things might be a little tense around the table. Perhaps if we are noticing that, we could do worse than reflect upon the energy that we have projected into the atmosphere and into the food. Now, that being said, we do need to get kind of the junk out of our systems, but I would submit that our cooking is not really going to be the best outlet for that particular endeavor. Now, it is seldom practical for anyone to set aside time to meditate before cooking, particularly if they're stressed out. That's not real life. But what we can do before we start is just take a deep breath, put on some music you like, refocus your mind, get into a more nurturing kind of focus, and save your aggression for exercise or for bedroom pursuits, where that aggression can be put to some good use. Now for winter pastimes. We've already had quite the dose of cold weather, and going forward, we're not going to have the festive season of Yule to distract ourselves. So while we could choose, and it's perfectly possible to just kind of hibernate, only going outside when absolutely necessary, and when we're indoors just binging on our favorite shows, movies, and video games, but might I suggest breaking up the monotony just a little bit? We know that in the olden days, people used to entertain themselves by playing board games or card games and playing musical instruments, sometimes very badly. But the nice thing about all these pursuits, whether, people were good at them or not, is that everyone was interacting with each other. It wasn't this passive looking at the screen or trying to forget and ignore the people who are around you. It was all about the interaction. And of course, as you get more in the habit of interaction, it can help people get along. And when the weather permits, because it's not always snow, ice, dangerous temperatures, hideous winds, when it's actually a fairly decent day, do try to get outside. We have precious few rays of sunshine to enjoy at this time of year. So when we do have that opportunity to go outside for a walk or a hike or go sledding, whatever it is you like to do, seize that moment to make the most of it. This is also a good time of year to show deities who are associated with winter some respect. While we don't always enjoy the harshness of winter at every moment, it does serve a purpose and it's necessary for the balance of the natural world. So if we learn how to appreciate the magical and the spiritual aspects of this season, it can take some of the sting out of the inconveniences it brings and, maybe by demonstrating that appreciation with offerings towards winter deities, maybe they might, send a little smile our way, make things easier to bear. Lastly, obviously not the only idea out there, but the last idea I'm going to bring up in this video. If you have any arts and crafts projects that you just weren't really able to get to or finish in previous seasons, it may be that the quiet of winter is just that moment you've been waiting for. So, I mean, the energy of the season, it draws inward anyway. It's a very introverted time of year, but that's all means it's a really good time to unleash a bit of creativity. So if you're starting to feel that yin, that, maybe I do want to finish that knitting that scarf or doing that thing or, whatever it is that you really enjoy doing, let that go, unleash it, and then have something to show for your winter months when things start going back into the spring, warming up, and then you're out and about and doing normal things. So make the most of this time. It does come with its benefits. So what ideas do you like to use to while away the winter? Tell me all about it in the comments section or come see me on Gilded. There's a link to join us in the description box below. Our server is called Blackbird's Brew. And, share your ideas there. How do you like to spend the winter nights? Is there any kind of rituals or just fun things that you like to do that just make you actually enjoy the season? I'd love to have that brainstorming. I'm sure that our summer lovers on the server would particularly appreciate those insights. Anything that eases their suffering during this time of year, uh, I'm sure they would be most grateful for. But yeah, definitely come and see us. We'd love to have you. So I think that'll do it for now. I will see you in the next video. Bye.